there, comic friends. I'm Travis, and it's time for the edition of No Capes, where I talk about comic books that don't have to do with superheroes. These are comic books for the week of January 4th, 2017. We're going to jump right into it. The final issue of The Rise of the Black Flame, issue number 5 of 5. Campbell cover. This one's not subtle at all. Most of the other covers for this run have been kind of these cool kind of hidden skull in the background kind of a thing. So the final issue, it ends like a Magnolia Universe kind of a book does lots of times, with kind of more questions with a looming creature coming in the background. Anybody who is familiar with the larger Magnolia Universe knows the Black Flame is a pretty powerful villain that has shown up multiple times throughout the years. I mean, like in at least in the 1940s, during World War II, and we know in the modern age multiple times. So this is an origin, but not an origin of the Black Flame kind of a thing. There's a cult, Polynesian cult, no, Tibetan, Malaysian type cult somewhere in that area that you know, is practicing in the ancient ways, and they're kidnapping children, and our adventurers kind of go to find these children, and in the process that run into this cult, and they think they ultimately stop whatever it is that the cult was doing. They save this child, and by the end of it we find out that we didn't really save the child. The child had already been told by some greater power that she was not going to be the Black Flame, that someone else was, and that she was going to be the caretaker. And if you've been reading like the Lobster Johnson runs in the Magnolia Universe, the Black Flame in there had a woman that was with him. Here it is. Really love it. Love it for the greater, I mean, it's a great story on its own. Perfect kind of Chthonian type horror story, in that, you know, when you get done with it, you've basically unearthed a greater horror that sometimes you realize is there and sometimes you don't, and we see it in those last pages, kind of a thing. But if you're part of the larger universe, a fan of the larger universe, you love it for all of the aspects that are in that and whatnot. Just really enjoyed this. I think Chris Robinson is a decent replacement for John Arcudi. I don't think anybody's going to ever actually replace John Arcudi, but as the new kind of writer that helps Magnolia's ideas you know, come to the page. And Christopher Mitten does a great job on art, with, of course, Dave Stewart's brilliant colors, as always. Loving that book. Issue 3 of Yakuza Demon Hunters. This is only 4 issues now, I've heard. IDW book. What you get on the cover is what you see inside. Of course, in this case, it's got this little part that's been ripped off. So it was a picture of a girl, demon behind it. So in this issue, it's jumped forward an entire year since issue number 2. Not always a big fan of that. Why not tell us a lot of story in between? It frustrates me to spend, you know, 2 issues a year ago, and now we're going to spend 2 issues, you know, a year in advance. To me, is kind of frustrating. So, but anyway, like I said, the art you see on the covers, the art you get inside, it's great, crazy art. So what this is we find out that the Yakuza in Japan, one of the families has been charged with keeping demons at bay. They discovered years ago that there were demons invading the earth. And so they're the crime family that is spending their time, you know, dealing with that. We also find out that the head of this Yakuza family has got ulterior motives. He isn't just out to fight all the demons. He's out to kill all the demons, but he wants to collect all of the magical power and artifacts for himself. One of our main characters here, she is a heroin junkie to start the book out with. She ends up getting a hold of a sword they were planning on stealing, and it grafts with her, kind of like Witchblade in a sense. And so this head of the Yakuza family is training her up now, and in this issue is basically making her part of the family, much to some of the other Yakuza's complaints because she's a woman, and of course doesn't belong there, kind of thing. But he's working at this greater goal to gain that sword. By the end of the issue, the demons, we're not sure exactly what their motivation is other than being demons. They are now pouring through to start their war. They have unleashed like their kind of champion is there and is wrecking stuff, and so the Yakuza, drunk off their asses from partying over the fact that she is now part of their crew, are now going to fight these demons again. I don't know. I don't remember this only being as being solicited as 4. I thought it was solicited as like 6 or something. So maybe it's not selling, and so they truncated the story. I'm not 100% sure. But it has a lot of aspects that are like what my kids watch lots of anime and read a healthy amount of manga. And my complaints with those is I always like the stories. The ideas are really cool. I just don't like the goofy things that it seems to be a necessity to put in those. The one goofy character, the goofy eyes, the emoticons popping around their heads, and all of those kinds of moments that happen are gone. So it's got the elements, the cool plot ideas and story ideas that go on in those kinds of things, and in the setting of that, without the stupid, the stuff for me that I think is stupid, that I don't care for. So I really, really enjoyed that book. It's been cool. It's been cool. Don't know if it's worth hunting it down if you haven't picked them up, because it hasn't ended. I don't know how it's going to end, but I've enjoyed it. It's been a pleasant surprise. What is? So issue 25 of The Wicked and Divine. Great book as always. Lots of wonderful character. You get Jamie McKelvey's wonderfully clean, perfect lines for characters and the structures around them, and great colors by Matt Wilson and Karen Gillian. Great dialogue and whatnot in this issue. We get more of Laura Persephone. Is she part of the supposed evil black void that they don't even know really exists or whatnot? She comes to sort of a working arrangement with cannot remember the guy's name, the one that always wears the robot suit and has the Valkyries around him and whatnot. Cannot remember what his name is, at any rate. But she gets to a working agreement with him. He was one of the people that worked directly with Anka, who, that they've discovered has been killing them off, and that sort of thing. One of the things that's wonderful about this is some of the art in it plays off of art, I believe. I haven't gone back and looked, but I'm almost positive that some of this stuff is like this, for instance. I think we've seen before with other characters, and so I just think it's kind of really reminds me that it's with other characters. I have to look and see to be 100% sure, but I'm almost positive. And so I like that kind of harkening back to some of that stuff, the same positions, leveraged differently and whatnot. That's just really some interesting storytelling and stuff, and so I really enjoyed all those aspects. There's also some the facial expressions here are absolutely wonderful. The anger, the remorse that's in some of these characters' faces, and some of their actions and what they're doing are just really good. Really a smart comic, for a lot of that stuff. And then we get, we get to this, the supposed evil stuff that, the Great Darkness. There's a questioning here. Is the Great Darkness real? And then something happens at the very end of it that kind of cements that down. That it's really there. And I really like the comic. I just enjoy everything about it. Good stuff. Oh, another book that is absolutely excellent. It's one of my favorite books out right now. Shade the Changing Girl. This is issue number 4. Cecil Castellucci and Marley Zarcone and Andy Parks and Kelly Fitzpatrick are the creators on this book. Just a really, really smart book. As our alien Shade is taken over Megan's body and is having to deal with the Megan's past and Megan's emotions and all the damage that Megan has done to everybody, and then her own personal Shade's own personal issues and shortcomings and all of that, just all kind of mixed together, and it's just really, really smart and really, really intriguing, and is by far, of the Young Animal books. I love all the Young Animal books. This is my favorite. As much as I love Doom Patrol, I'm a huge Doom Patrol fan. Of course, Shade the Changing Girl is just a brilliant, brilliant comic. Wonderfully drawn, smart panels, great transitions, really thoughtful. Gives you lots of time as reading it to go, oh man, what would that be like? Oh man, what's this going to be like? Oh geez, can't imagine what that'd be like. Just lots and lots of that kind of aspects that just make for an enjoyable read, to give you more than just the flash that's on the page. And, gives you long term, things to think about, and I just really, really enjoy that, in a book. Great stuff. One of the few Vertigo titles left, Ever After from the Pages of Fable. I did not like this book when it first came out with issue 1. Issue 5, end of the first arc. I actually really enjoy this book. I like the characters that are in it. It focuses on Piper, Bo Peep, and one of Rose's and Bigby's cubs. Just really a lot of fun. It's kind of a James Bond-ish kind of a deal. They're secret agents, and they're in charge of tamping down the supernatural, the Fable-esque stuff that's happening, and keeping it all under wraps and keeping it all under control, so the Mondays don't see it and lose their minds and hunt everybody down, or whatever horrible thing might happen if the Mondays find out that these things exist and whatnot. By the end of this issue, we see Bo Peep kind of does her own thing. She's taking control of some stuff. Does not completely buy into the hard line that Featherfall, who's in charge of this whole thing, his hardline view and how they should deal with rogue agents and stuff. So that's all interesting. Clearly that's something that's going to come back to bite them in the ass at some point, I am sure. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying the book now. It was a good, and it ended really well. Curious to see what the next story is going to be. No idea how any of this stuff is selling. The Vertigo books seem to be dropping like flies. This one's tapping into the Fables thing, so maybe it's got a larger audience because of that whole Fable part of it. I don't know. We'll see in the coming year, I think, what Vertigo is going to look like. I don't know, quite frankly. So, another Vertigo book, The Unfollow. This is number 15. Anybody who's been watching any of the roundtables like that knows I really love this book. Another book that's just really interesting, got all kinds of crazy stuff going on in it. The 140 people being mowed down to 86 on the title, on the cover of this anyway. There is some meta stuff going on. There's this jaguar that keeps showing up. Occasionally a bear shows up, and they're having conversations with some of these characters and whatnot. There's some righteous or religious people in here. There's some other crazy meta stuff that goes on in it too. All really intriguing stuff. Unfortunately, this is another book that jumps a year in advance. Our last issue had a bunch of airplanes crashing down on a commune that had a bunch of our 140 that were going to win these billions and billions of dollars. We jump a year in advance of that. Our masked figure is crazily hunting most of these people down. Like I said, it's jumped a year. David, the religious guy, I can't remember his name, the crazy gun-toting guy, have hunted down the masked man, and they're going to take him out instead. They've stole his money. All kinds of craziness is ensuing. Grace is still in this. She's kind of the rich... Courtney. Her name is Courtney. She is still in this. She survived the plane crash that crashed into the commune and killed everybody there. She survived that. Now she's a hard-boiled, hard-ass. They catch the match guy. They're going to execute him, and he divulges some secrets that turn everything on its ear. Rumor has it this book is done at issue 18. This is issue number 15. I don't know that for sure. It was pointed out to me by somebody else that I talk comics with, and they pointed out to me that it was on Bleeding Cool, and you know me, I don't follow Bleeding Cool anymore, nor believe anything that comes out of their mouths. So, I don't know. It definitely has sped the timeline of everything up dramatically. I could definitely see it being done in 3 issues, even though originally we thought this was going to go on for quite some time, because supposedly it's still in production to be a television show, and of course they wanted a comic to support that TV show. A lot of stuff, if it's going to be ended in 3 issues, a lot of stuff has been left behind. That jump in a year, that's unfortunate. We should have gotten that whole year's worth of story. This book is worth it. Williams writes great stuff here. Despite me bad-mouthing him on Suicide Squad, which I think is due to editors, smart writing here, really interesting characters, and Dowling, art is so super solid, so just the right amount of everything. Winter on colors, just really smart stuff. Really great work from them. If it is ending, then what's next for these guys? Because I want to check out whatever book if Dowling and Winter are jumping onto after this. Just a bummer that these Vertigo books are not catching hold. I don't know if it's people are so on to the Image books that they're not checking out this imprint anymore. I don't know exactly why it is that this stuff isn't selling. It's every bit as good as what the Image stuff is. It just doesn't maybe have the same kind of hip marketing the Image seems to have. Not that Image does a lot of marketing per se, but what little they do makes them come across as the cool kids of comic, I think. And the creators all act like Image is where the cool kids are at. So I think both those things pull fans away from the Vertigo title, possibly, to thinking that Image books are the only place to get your good books at. Not saying that Image isn't putting out a hell of a lot of good books, because they are putting out a lot of books that I really like. Speaking of which, Black Science, issue number 27. In this issue, the latest craziness comes to a head. Pia is running around. She gets revisited by some people that make it super exciting. And by the end of this issue, we are now participating in a science-driven superhero comic. So stoked by that. They even go so far as to have a full-page spread scene of them charging forward. Full page spread and charging forward, yelling their superhero name as they charge forward, and their superhero name is the Anarchist League of Scientists. Let's go get those bastards. The art continues to be brilliant by Matteo Scalera and Moreno Dionisio on colors. Just super freaking awesome stuff. Yeah, I mean, great and great dialogue by Rick Remender. Great story as far as that goes. Me at the beginning of this, she's running, talking about the curse of her father. She thought she'd escaped it. She really wishes that what currently has happened here, she'd really just wake up. She'd be back with her fiance, and she'd be living that great life that she was living. But of course, it's not, because the curse of her father has now followed her. He's a dimwit, locked in a prison someplace, and she's trying to save him, but she's trying to save all this other stuff at the same time. And just crazy, but great, brilliant stuff that Black Science has always been. Great stuff. Love the fact that Rick Remender is committed to long-term comics, and I also appreciate the fact there's enough fans out there who are committed to long-term independent comics for us to get 2+ years of a story. That's great. I hope it continues. I hope more people who have committed to just buying the Batman, Supermans, Wolverines, Captain America's out there, regardless of whether they're enjoying them or not, because it's the character they think they need to invest in. I hope there's some investment in some of these independent comics, because there's some great stuff out there. And the creators want to tell long stories. They need the investment. They need us to invest in reading it for that to make that happen. And with that, I'm done. That's No Capes this week. Probably be back next week, and maybe I won't have the squeaky heater turned on. I don't know if you guys can actually hear that thing squeaking. I apologize if this entire video has been running and it sucks. Anyway, thanks for tuning in and checking it out, and see you next time.